In August 2015, James Dukes, known as IMAKEMADBEATS, introduced the world to a groundbreaking movement in Memphis's burgeoning hip-hop scene when he founded Unapologetic, a music label that has become the blueprint for building community among all types of creatives. Going against the grain allowed I Make Bad Beats to forge a new path in the music industry, reminiscent of the Harlem Renaissance. His work and passion pushed him to stretch his artistic bandwidth in places uncharted by a typical music label, from writing a screenplay for an award-winning short film to composing music for the Ballet Memphis company. I Make Bad Beats has shown that there is no limit to his vision for the city he calls home. We commemorate 10 years of Unapologetic by revisiting our conversation from 2022 with I Make Mad Beats. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast.
My name is Denny.
And I am Veronica. And today we have the ultimate guest on our show. We have producer, ground mover, world shaker, also known as I Make Mad Beats, born James Duke. He is from Memphis, Tennessee, after leaving his home to find infrastructure and creative synergy. He would eventually end up in Manhattan's legendary Quad Studios, where he became a go-to ghost producer and found a new niche in scoring for film and television. He went on to provide music for many companies, including NBC, ABC, HBO, DC Shoes, Oxygen, and more, all the letters. Upon returning to Memphis years later, I Make Mad Beats founded the collective Unapologetic. Established in 2015, this company/label would not only change the landscape of his career as a producer, but also would focus on shifting the culture of the community he was raised in. What's going on, Mr. James, also AKA I Make Mad Beats? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. This is great to see you guys, see you all's faces, and yeah, I'm excited about this conversation. You know?
We are excited too. This is a very special conversation because it's taking place in your brand new studio. I feel like we're like the inaugural interview for today. Are we the first people that you talked to today in your studio?
Oh, it's funny. Today I had my very first recording session here.
Oh, wow.
Very first talking to anybody in this kind of capacity to ever happen here. So yeah, absolutely. This is legendary moment for sure.
Oh man, history in the making.
Yes, in the books.
Now, when we initially hit you up, this was after the wonderful viewing of your short film, The Devil Will Run. Yeah. So this conversation is gonna cross over a lot of what you are, what you've done in the community and what you do in the art world. But we're going to start with your short film first. So for those who don't know and have been living under a rock, I Make Mad Beats partnered up with Noah Glenn to co-write and narrate the short film, The Devil Will Run, which is a quick synopsis is of a young boy who discovers a small hole in his backyard, and he fears it may be where the devil gets in and out. So with the help of a friend, he learns to stand up for himself. And this film, it premiered at the Indie Memphis Film Festival last year, where it received both the jury and audience awards for the best hometowner narrative short, and is currently playing in film festivals and will be available online in 2022. So we want to talk about that. So you co-wrote and narrated this film with Noah Glenn. What was the inspiration behind The Devil Will Run, and how long did it take for you to create it?
Yeah, so Noah Glenn is a good friend of mine who you know, I met him because he worked for a company called Choose 901 here, an organization called Choose 901. And they tend to highlight cool things happening in Memphis. And they came to interview me in my studio one day. And we kind of, just realized we listened to the same producers and rappers and stuff like that. And we just kind of became friends on that vibe. He started a podcast that would, his intentions for the podcast were to essentially talk to adults who had unique memories of being a child, and find ways to use those memories to like help kids. And so he was just kind of doing some, like, I guess, market research, and he was just kind of talking to friends about their childhoods and things that they had done that was interesting or emotionally interesting. And he reached out to me. He came through one day, and he asked me, like, what's a memory in your childhood that that you laugh at or that you find sometimes unexplainable in terms of how you felt or whatever. And I told him, I was like, man, there was this hole in my yard that I thought the devil lived in this hole. And and he just laughed. He kind of laughed and was like, why'd you think that? And to be honest, I don't know why I thought that. I mean, my dad, he definitely had us in the church all the time, because he was in the church all the time. He sang in the choir and everything. So, I looked, there was this hole in the backyard where when you look at it, I couldn't see the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else I had ever, I could see the bottom of things, but in this hole, no matter how close I got to it, it just looked like this never ending hole. And I was like, yo, this gotta be where Satan, like, whenever he comes to earth, this is how he gets in, and so so he was so intrigued by that. So he just laughed, and he just kept asking me questions about it, like why, and just kept asking me questions about that part of my life. And to be quite honest, I had told this story to a few people just throughout my life, and every time I said it, people would just be like, yo, you wild, bro, like, it's a devil in your yard. People just looked at me like I was whatever, and they just kind of shrugged it off. But his level of like interest in it was just extremely high. And then we ended up talking about a whole bunch of other things, and that was that. And then literally like a year later, the pandemic had started. All things 2020 hit, including, the social and political movements that happened. And, just full disclosure, I've been dealing with a health issue that kind of sprung on me about 2 years ago that, kind of changed my life. It definitely changed my life. And so I was right in the dawn of that health issue. And, I was in a very dark place. I wasn't believing the greatest things. And I was contemplating some dark things. And I just get this call from Noah. He's like, hey, man, remember that story you told me last year? And I was like, the one about the hole in the yard? He's like, yeah. He's like, man, I've really been playing that a lot. Apparently he looped it because he recorded it when we had the conversation. So apparently he looped it. He just had it on loop, like while he was washing the dishes and doing random stuff. And he was like, man, I'd like to make a short film out of that. I was like, okay, I guess, let's talk about it. And, he kind of sent through a rough draft of a script that he had, built around my story. And kind of, and then we just kind of back and forth about like happenings and ways to make the context work. And, but he had taken like literal phrases and sentences from me telling the story as the narration for this movie. And of course we're making this, like, at this point it's 2020 and we don't know if the murder hornet's gonna come through and kill us all off. We don't know what's about to happen. Murder hornets, that was just so ridiculous. Like
that was peak pandemic right there.
Yes.
It was like, what is next? Yeah, but we don't know what's next, but we are aware that in order to kind of create this and shoot this, you know, we have to move with caution. And most of the story takes place outside. And it was starting to get real cold in Memphis. So we pushed it back. We pushed back production for another 6 months until the spring. And by then, we had a better understanding of COVID. We had a better understanding of how to keep it safe, being outside, you know, just all the protocols to make sure that, especially because we were pulling kids in, that this was as safe as it could be. We pulled in a designer and a set designer in Catherine Patton. We pulled in Andrew Fleming as our DP, director of photography. And we just pulled together a real all-star team of skilled assassins. You know, and then me and Noah just focused on keeping the vision true to my childhood, as well as it was really important to us that the film be from the perspective of a 7-year-old, not adults' interpretation of a 7-year-old, you know. And so that required me to just really dig deep in how I felt in these moments, which I was lucky about, because in my opinion, a big part of being an artist is tapping into your childhood consistently. Because that's when everything's new, you're the most curious, you're the most innocent, and your thoughts are not ran down by society yet. And so I tend to keep that very protected in a secret vault. And so I can kind of get to it with ease. And so that, you know, once we actually shot it and and then went through the edit, man, probably in like 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Was this early? This was early in 2021 when you all shot?
We started shooting it in April or May of 2021.
When did the indie festival happen?
That happened in November.
November. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It happened in November. But we actually had to turn it in by like the summertime. And so we were literally, I was scoring it and he was doing the edits, literally down to the wire. You know, different versions of the score. This version of the score got strings. This one only has piano. We were just like going in down to the wire, and literally up until like the last hours when we turned it in.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was hooked in that story because, you know why? I'm Filipino. We have a monster that lives inside a hole.
Oh,
so I was like, man, I think this guy knows about my childhood. You know, we call it Nunu sa punso. It's like this little elfish looking devil thing that lives inside a hole. And I'm like, he's right. The boy.
I'm trying to learn all about that. I need a link, YouTube, something. I need to know more about that.
Then he will pick you up with all the details on that one.
So if you want to like a quick like you know, like synopsis summary of what this is, it's in Netflix. It's called Trece. It's like an animation of a comic book, a Filipino comic book, and they explain all the monsters, and one of them lives inside a hole.
Wow.
It's a dope series. You should definitely check it out. It gives Trece.
Yes.
Trese. And it gives you like the old school comic, like cartoon vibes, kind of like early Batman kind of feel to it. Yeah, it's really dope.
Yes, that's why I was hooked. And then you put on the music and I was like, oh my God, it's my childhood. So all those people that laughed at you, haven't been us. Haven't walked what we walked.
Hey, maybe I'm like Filipino in some like lost like situation. Like, I don't know. I might be connected. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe one of my ancestors was like, James.
Right. Oh yeah, that's what's up.
I was like, so Veronica was like, you don't need to tell me no more. We're watching this.
Oh yeah, that's what's up.
So this short film was not the first that you have been part of. In 2018, rapper Blitz the Ambassador debuted his first short film, The Burial of Kojo, which you helped produce music for. You have also produced music for Blitz outside of the film project. What is your relationship with Blitz the Ambassador, and how did you come about this unique opportunity?
Well, okay, so let me back up. I haven't really worked with him outside of that project. But I've known Blitz since 2007 or 8, you know. And it was really just because he works, like, his main producer was my guy Optics, who was also in Orlando. Also, you know, that was my homie, you know what I'm saying? You know Optics, yeah. So
That's right there.
yeah. Optics, him and I, we lived in Brooklyn together, and we were not together, but we lived in Brooklyn at the same time. And so we would always find each other in each other's spaces. And he's just an amazing producer. So I would just go over there and get inspired to come home. He would come through and get inspired and go home. And, you know, that's the kind of relationship we had. And he worked with Blitz a lot. And Blitz always had this amazing vision for performances, just full on bands and just crazy trumpets. And everything he did was like high production value. Like, it was so clear how much he believed in, like, the presentation of his music. So I met Blitz through Optics. One day, I can't remember how. I was an engineer at Quad Studios in Manhattan, and so I knew cool people, I knew people. And so I remember one night, somebody gave me tickets to a Roots jam session.
Wow.
Yeah, somebody gave me tickets, you know, Nemo, we got you, bro. We got tickets for the Roots jam session. It's down on, I just remember it was on like the Lower East Side. Actually, it was on the West Side. Sorry, it was on the Lower West Side. And I had, you know, a couple of tickets or whatever. And I don't know how this happened, but Optics ended up hitting me up and being like, yo, you got any spare tickets to that Roots jam session? I was like, yo, I got one more, because my then girlfriend, now wife, was not available to roll with me. And I'm thinking he's about to ask me to roll. He's like, nah, man, you know, Blitz is trying to roll through. You know, he wanted to see if he could roll with you and blah, blah, blah. I was like, hell yeah, I rock with Blitz, let's go. We ended up spending like the whole night chilling together, Subway. I think I know this part of the story I don't even know. We ended up at some Warren G show as well. Like,
Wow.
It was a very interesting night. But I just know we chilled a lot that night, and we really got a chance to know each other, and we got a chance to talk about ambitions and, I guess, character, and yeah. And that was it. You know, I said, we had a great night. I said, yo, you know, we got to connect, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And that was like the last time I talked to him for a long time, just on some like, man, that was a cool night type vibes. And then, like, you know, 10 years later or whatever, you know, you know, I had done some work with Optics or whatever, and Optics hit me up and was like, some of the work that we had did was like, yo, man, Blitz wants to hop on this, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that's the homie, let's get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love Blitz, you know what I'm saying? Let's get it. And he got on it. He ended up using it for the movie. And then, yeah, and it really happened swiftly like that. You know, he shouted me out. He sent me with a message and told me, great to hear from you again. I hope everything's good. I know you're down in Memphis now. I see you doing cool things, et cetera, et cetera. I was just like, yeah, man, you doing cool things too, my guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's good. It's good. It's always cool, man. Like, that's one of the coolest things about this part of life is, like, it's just cool to have known people for like a decade, and you saw them, like, you know, and be like, damn, bro, you slick doing it crazy. And then they be like, bro, you doing it. And we just be like, I don't know, you know. You know, and so, yeah, you know, then his Burial of Kojo came out, and it was all over the place and won these awards. And I'm just like, yeah, like, he's really out here. And then the next things happened, and it was just like, damn, dog, I'm glad I legit noticed, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, not on some, like, random, like, yo, I DM'd him and we're cool. Like, no, like I legit know him. Because man, he's doing amazing stuff. And like, it's just dope as hell because, you know, he just always had that high production visionary outlook on things. And I remember him with the music, and I remember he was making noise, he was touring. But then there was like a lull in that where it was like, people were like, what happened with Blitz? Like he's kind of not out here doing it as much as he was. He wasn't making blah, 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 blah. He wasn't making the same level of visible moves, you know? And it's just dope to see people keep going.
Yeah.
And then like come back the way Dre did, like after Death Row, and now you got Aftermath. Now he's got Eminem and 50 and Kendrick, and he was like, oh, y'all thought Snoop was it? Nah, you know. Yeah. And you know, I got so much admiration for him, man. He's such a role model for, like, you know, keeping your vision high and not letting anybody discourage you. You know,
it's something beautiful to watch, like you said, to see people like that you've been in the industry with and just being creative, even if they're not in music, just they're creative friends, and watching them like just blossom, and you being able to, you know, maybe not move at the same pace, but both of you all are moving together and just being like, yo, like, look at us. Like, what, it just started out as a dream and now look at us like doing the damn thing. And it's really beautiful. So I want to pivot the conversation to specifically talking about you as a producer and what music means. And music is several things all at once. It's a time machine. It's a vehicle for change, and it can be transformative. And you often talk about the moment when music really began to click for you in those early years in car trips with your father, in a way that the way that you describe these things, it just really feels like all of those descriptors of it being a time machine and such, all at once. And you talk about listening to jazz as a kid.
Yeah.
And it being like the link to what it is that you are doing now. Will you talk to us more about that early musical connection and also when you realized this was what you wanted to do as a career?
Okay. Man, I wish my piano was hooked up. I would just play. All right, so like for some reason or another, like I just really loved magic as a kid. You know, never ending story type vibes, like, you know, anything that was it just felt like extremely curious and like mysterious, you know, anything that, you know, they just had that feeling of like anything is possible, you know. That's what I gravitated towards. So when I would listen to music, of course I was a fan of Michael Jackson and, you know, whoever was popping, you know, in the pop atmosphere, you know. But when I thought about the most magical music, to me, it was jazz. I mean, I didn't even know it was jazz at the time. It was just, you know, this is just the music that I like to hear. And my dad would always play it in the car when he was driving around. I love the upright bass, just the way it just felt magical to me. I loved like pianos that like broke rules of like, you know, music theory, the way jazz did, and, you know, and the way like echoes and delays and things would just create this magical bed that would make you feel like some smoke just cleared and like somebody appeared and was like, hello, you know, like that, like those moments, I lived for them. And jazz was the only thing that I think broke the rules enough to do that consistently. And so I just listened to my dad's jazz all the time. Then, you know, I remember getting my pops you know, he got us like MC Hammer and shit like that, you know. And, you know, and that was cool. I remember being like, yeah, this is dope. You know, of course, everybody was talking about it, Crisscross. Everybody was talking about it, cool. But when I heard the Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest, you know what I'm saying? Doom, 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 doom. Back in the days, when I heard that, it was like, oh, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Because every song is jazz. Every song is jazz, but it's rap.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this has got that feeling, but it's like rap, you know. What's the Excursions? Like, I remember I fell in love with that tape particularly. And at that point, I was a fan of rap. It wasn't the main thing to me yet. I still listened to like a whole bunch of music and, you know, whatever. When I got Midnight Marauders, that's what changed my life. And that was, you know, I got that a CD, so I could put songs on repeat and shit. Yeah. I remember getting that. Like, I just remember hearing that and like, you know, like, you know, I don't know, I might have to, peace sucker nigga, whoever you are. Like, I remember hearing,
Yes.
like, I remember just being like, yo, and that's when I knew I was a hip hop head. That's when I knew. That record like solidified it to the point where it's like, there's no telling the story of me without including that, album.
When you look back at how it all started for you, where are you now, and what do you envision for the future, and what comes to mind?
Well, right now, it's funny because right now I'm actually looking for ways to simplify my life. You know, I feel like I've been a guy with 17 arms for the past 5 years.
In my head, you do.
Yeah, you know, I just been trying to make things happen. And if I, you know, just to be again ultra transparent, like I changed my definition of success a few years back, and before it was just like honestly get out of poverty and then stay out of poverty the way I want to, which is as a creative, which is as an artist. And then, you know, I came back to Memphis and I saw that my historically important community had little to no investment in it and hadn't grown nearly as much in investment like the surrounding neighborhoods. And so, you know, there were neighborhoods right next to mine that had completely changed and were been cleaned up and everything looks great, you know. But then in my streets, you know, it just looked like people forgot about it. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of changed my goals to like, if, you know, if I came through all of this to be good, what's the point of it if I can't help others achieve the same thing, you know?
Right.
And so that opened my doors up to like trying to being more than just a producer. You know what I'm saying? Like I realized like there's a limited amount of change I can affect through making beats. And so I just began to open my mind and open up my approaches to a variety of ways to affect change. And that required me to change or to grow a lot because, you know, when I met Mama Africa, I was the quietest, most, you know, not trying to talk to nobody. You know, I really wasn't good at that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't, and if I'm being honest, especially with women, like women just, I couldn't have those conversations because I grew up in a house with all men, you know, and so women were like kind of intimidating to me, to be honest. Like, You know, I didn't know. I tried to talk to women. I approached them the same way I approached men, dapping them up, and people just laughing at me, like, you know, it's crazy. But you know, I just didn't know how to communicate, and so I had to get better at that. I had to get better at communicating, talking, expressing my ideas. And once I did that, and I began to express my ideas, people started to gravitate towards my ideas and see them like, hey, who is this guy? He thinks in a cool way, you know. And yeah, and then once that started to happen, I kind of began to let those ideas open doors for me. And those ideas opened a lot of doors for me, more doors than I had hands.
Mm.
And so while I have been blessed to build a team who can help handle some of those doors at times, you know, now I'm a dad. You know, my son's about to turn 5. I mean, again, I'm dealing with new health issues that are just requiring me to say, hey, man, like, we gotta rethink how many hands you're trying to juggle things with, you know. And so where I am now is I'm aiming to simplify and simplify through. See, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. And this is where things get interesting. I want to simplify my life, but I am still just as ambitious. I'm not trying to let go of any of my ideas, right? Because all of my ideas have a purpose that I think, you know, I'm drawn to. So what that requires me to do is to create systems and to pull in the right people to help further these ideas and leave me where I am best, which is here in the studio, and continuing to build and develop the Orange Mountain Tower, which is our way of saluting and helping to build and push forward what is the first neighborhood built for and by Black people in the United States of America. So yeah, that's what that is. But the only version of me that can do that is a healthy and happy me. They can do that at the level that I want to, is a healthy and happy me. And that starts with me in the studio.
Right.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I had a question that I was going to pose later, but I feel like it's now to ask it, and that is, what does rest mean for you? Because, you know, like early on watching you, you know, at the beginning of you doing all of this, you know, producing music, and I know the life of a producer, the hours that is with it is sometimes you're up late at night making music. And you know, back in the day, a lot of people had this like grind mentality, like, you know, you gotta sleep when you're dead. That's, you know, in order for you to get where you want it to be. And now with you talking about like being married and having a son, and you know, you have an entire, not only your personal family but your extended family with your record label, what does rest look like for you now? What does it mean for you as a Black man when you're talking about rest?
So I am incredibly conflicted when I have this conversation. Here's why. You know, first of all, I'm all about rest. You know, I'm all about rest. I was forcibly put into being all about rest because there was parts of 2020 and 2021 where I just, you know, full disclosure, you know, I have 2 doctors and one of them thinks I have lupus. And so one of the biggest symptoms of lupus is extreme fatigue. And so most of 2020 and 2021, you know, I just spent most of my days in and out of sleep or in and out of sitting in a chair and feeling useless, like I couldn't do anything. because I was just so tired and so weak all the time. And that, that took a lot out of me because I'm so used to being Spider-Man. I'm so used to, being up till 3 a.m., waking up like a few hours later, and getting back to the grind. And so I was forcibly sat down. Big shout outs to God, I was forcibly sat down and set to recognize, the error in my ways. Now I'm doing a little bit better. I've had a little bit better of a coasting few months, actually, only 3 or 4 months where I've been feeling decent, to be quite honest. But rest now is extremely important to me. It's something that, the number one phrase I keep hearing is like, rest is revolutionary, right? And so, I think about rest in that way. I think about, I have the most scheduled out, like that was one of the reasons why it was important to get this studio. It was important to get this studio because it created a separation between home and work. And so when I'm at home, I could really be at home. When I'm at work, I can really be at work, right? And so when I'm at home, it's easier for me to be like, oh, I should get some rest because I'm not feeling that tinge of like anxiety because there's not much separation between home and work. So I'm 1,000% about rest. I'm 1,000% about listening to my body. Okay, now here's where the conflict comes in. Right now, I can say, man, I need some real rest and a real reset and not work for any day for 2 months, right? I can do that. And I needed to do that. I absolutely needed to do that. And I did that. I did that, a couple of times in the last 2 years since all of this started happening. I could do that and value rest because of the success I had when I didn't, right? And so I feel like just telling people, hey, rest, 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 rest. Be like me, rest, 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 rest. To me, that's like Oprah saying, hey guys, this is what I do every day. You should too. And Oprah has $6 trillion. You know what I'm saying? Like and so for me, I'm conflicted because I truly see the value of it. But I also know the thing that opened me up to see the value in it was going hard for years, right? I saw the true value of rest the very first time I said, yo, I'm not working for a month. And it took me a while to do that. And at the end of that month, I had learned so many things about myself. I learned I had been hiding things. I had not dealt with some things. There were issues in my mind that were affecting my day-to-day that I was unaware of. Rest allows you to heal and recognize things, but I would have never had the space to do that. It reminds me of my dad. My dad has a whole bunch of things that he'd never dealt with. But my dad spent 20 years not able to rest. Like I can rest now because he had to raise us as a single father in the hood. Right? And so what do I look like going to that man and being like, yo, Michael, you should just rest, bro. When was he gonna rest? When did he have the opportunity to do what I did? He never had that opportunity to do what I did until me and Tarek Czar were gone. Right? And then even then, he still worked hourly wages. He just retired. He's 64. He just retired. And now he can sit at home and have the space and the time to consider things that he never did. And so I'm conflicted because I don't know. I know that I want people to rest because I've seen the benefits of it, but I know the Nemo you met, right? I know the James you met. And the James you met, if today James walked up to him and said, hey, bro, you should try getting more sleep, get more rest. 2000 and whatever, James would have been like, you clearly not as broke as me. Shut up. I got to get this money. You living good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what I'm going to eat tomorrow. You feel me? So I'm not trying to hear that. You know? And so to me, you can't really solve the rest issue until you solve the how steeped in poverty our community is issue. Until you give people better options of life, better options of healthcare, right? Because let's be clear, our jobs is not just for the money to buy a car or whatever. Our jobs be just so that we can go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. Until you can accurately solve that issue, it feels unrealistic to just tell people, hey, yo, dog, you should get some rest. Like, because that's not, it's not like people, I wasn't not resting because I just thought that was fun. Like,
right.
I was not resting because I was poor. You know, and to simplify poverty, like you can just change up how you're living, to me feels very privileged.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm glad that you said that. I know right now there has been a movement. There's a specific movement one right now that's called Nap Ministry, who is advocating for people of color to really find the time. And it, like you stated, there are so many different obstacles that keep us from being able to find that time to sit down and just, you know, even for 5 minutes, because we know there are a lot of people out there who are working more than one job, trying to provide for their family. And they're like, sit down where? Because at 5 o'clock, I got to go to work.
Right.
And I'm going to sleep for like 10 minutes in between those things. And it calls to attention, you know, where we are as a nation when we're talking about, you know, where we find that space to be able to find rest. And earlier tonight, we were talking about how much I wish, and maybe one day, I'm just putting it out in the universe, Lord, that I could have you, and there's a writer named Heather McGee, and she wrote this book called The Sum of Us. And it talks about how when we're talking about equality, that you cannot get to full true equality without white people taking notice of like the things that they are hindering other people from having. They're also hindering their own from having as well. And how this whole conversation works with not only what we just talked about in regards to rest, but what it is that you are doing in Memphis with Orange Mound, which we'll touch on later. But I know it will be a rich conversation because so much gets missed by that point right there. You're talking about finding that rest. And I lost my job in 2019. And the first thing that I thought about was, I don't have insurance. And I went to the doctor before they cut that shit off. I was like, let me go and do everything that I can do and just pray that my body does not break down in the meantime.
Yep.
And insurance, especially now, is a lot. So you're talking to people who don't have 2 quarters to rub together to go and sit.
I get it.
Yeah, I used to be so insulted when people would tell me, Denny, why are you going overtime again? As a child of an immigrant, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Because I'm like, did you see my parents rest? My mom works every day, and up to this day, she's still working.
Yeah.
And I am a nurse, so I am very glad that you took some rest in the most medical, term, like the most medical rest possible.
Yeah.
You know, it is hard for people of color to prioritize themselves because we see a bigger picture on how our lives, the people that are connected to us,
Yep.
and the world should function, right? It's like we can't stop until it's right for everybody. It just can't be about us. So
Clapping it up, I guess.
yeah, but
Yeah.
like as a mother of, like, my child is 2 years old. If I don't get it together, I would either be a burden to my child when he's not yet of the right age to maybe think about, oh, how should I take care of like my not so old mother who's like degrading, or I'd be gone in the world and he would be motherless, or my husband would be like a widow.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that term of rest, that we can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a vacation 2 months in like this private island. you know
Yeah.
I wish everybody could do that. But in order to reach that, there's like financial stuff that needs to be set up, and sometimes the world is against us to achieve it. That's why I think your story of doing this for Orange Mott really like hits home, because I'm like, this is a man that is taking up this responsibility and having this platform for everybody so we can all succeed.
Well, that's it. You said it perfectly. I think about that all the time. Like I have, white friends and just people I know where, man, they just never, I don't think I've ever met, and I'm sure that they exist, but I don't think I've ever met a white person that had to bring something back to like his family or like his community, or they just be out here like, I'm successful, and that's kind of the end of that. Like, and for us, and it's, I'm a Black man from Memphis, but I'm also a first generation American. My mom is Guyanese, and so I have both of those worlds where it's like Black man from Memphis, and then at the same time, like my mom grew up in Georgetown in Guyana, and between both of them, my dad working 70 hours a week at 3 different jobs, and then my mom just being the most go-getter person ever. It's that's all you see. That's all you see is get up and go get it. And to the point where I grew up feeling guilty chilling. If even if I had the opportunity to, I felt guilty chilling. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that healing and involved in there as well. But I just think that again, like I think I'm about, like, one thing that I strongly dislike is I strongly dislike performative actions. I don't like like, hey man, this should change. Yeah, this should change. But saying that is not all that's necessary for that to change.
Right.
But you just get this high off of people agreeing with you in that moment, and maybe you got some retweets or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like I despise that. And so for me, if I'm truly trying to give people rest, if I'm truly trying to do my part, because it'll take a whole bunch of us, if I'm truly trying to dedicate my life to doing my part, well then what I'm really dedicating my life to is creating some sort of source, avenue, or platform for people to live more whole and happier lives, right? Like that's the goal, because that leads to these other things. Anything else is just me, yay, this is not fair, and that's it. And so for me, it's like, man, when I think about my community, when I think about what I've done in music and am doing in music, and how that's given me a voice for people to, listen to what I'm saying. My goal is to create that platform, that sets up Black people in this Black community to have in their own neighborhoods and controlled by themselves the resources and the avenues to uplift themselves in a way that allows them to find the pride and ownership of their own autonomy or of their own like existence. And then also to benefit themselves in the process in a way that gives them that space to say, you know, it's funny, like there was a time when I just mathematically had to work all the time. Like that was it. Like in order to make ends meet, mathematically, quantifiably, I had to work all the time. And then there was a time when I didn't. And but I still did. I still worked all the time because it was trained in me, right? What I didn't know at the time was that even though here felt like here, I was on the next level, right? So now I was fighting me here. I had to unlearn something, but I wasn't fighting survival over here, right? And I think sometimes people are right here and we like, rest. We try to like, you know, say all of these positive and watch this video and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Instead of celebrating, hey, wait a minute. This person has options now. Give them some time to recognize you have an option now. Believe it or not, you're on the next level, right? And let them get to the space to where they choose it, because that's when it'll sustain. You just got to drop the seeds, surround them with the fruit, you know, and then let them choose it. Because I swear, man, it didn't stick until I chose it. It didn't stick until I chose it. And then you chose rest, and then you choose rest. And then you kind of look back and you're like, oh man, you know, I've made it. I made it. Like to me, the biggest sign of wealth is options.
Right.
You know, and I think that a lot of times we're preaching. I'm all about communication in a way that works. I think a lot of people are just so focused on communication, but they're not focused on, is the way you're communicating setting up comprehension, right? Right? Are you just throwing words at somebody and being mad that they're not adhering to it? Right?
That might be me.
Yeah, I mean, I find that that's what happens. People are so excited to represent this new movement and to be like, I'm over here. I'm working smarter, not harder, like you dummies. Like they're so excited about that moment, you know, that they're not realizing you're alienating anybody who needs to hear that, who needs to adhere to this, right? And so you're just so busy shouting at people instead of realizing, okay, I understand your circumstances may not be mine at this moment. What can I do to help those circumstances change? So then you can move to it being a choice. You can feel like you have a choice. And I just feel like unless you're willing to break it down, and I could be wrong, but unless you're willing to break it down to that level of cause and effect, I'm not really trying to hear what you're saying. Like you're just talking to people.
We've praised you about Orange Mound, and for the people that that are listening and might not know about this place, can you tell us the historical significance of Orange Mound, specifically for Black people, and how vital was it to acquire this space and the urgency to reclaim this land for Black people to flourish on?
Yeah, Orange Mound is a neighborhood I grew up in. It's the first neighborhood built formed by Black people in the United States of America. And because of that, a lot of what happened in the South, a lot of the motions and where Black people ended up, you know, a lot of people cross paths or have roots to this neighborhood because of its historic significance in the South. And so it is the neighborhood with the highest level of civic pride and engagement in Memphis. It's also the neighborhood that has seen the least amount of growth since the recession of 2009 in the city. I so much of my family is rooted in that neighborhood. my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunts and uncles, you know, we're all there, and, you know, on the verge of what is clearly the wave of gentrification, kind of sweeping the city. Just, you know, we're in that frequency now. You know, just, you know, the way things are going in the country and money is happening. You know, we had an idea, you know, that I knew I wanted space. This was 3 years ago. I knew I wanted space, just for my company, because again, we started all this in a spare room in my house. And I knew I wanted space. My partner, or a woman who runs a nonprofit called, at the time called The Collective, now called Tone. Her name is Victoria Jones. Their heaviest hand was in visual arts. Our heavy hand was in music. And our cruise kind of was just turned up Memphis in a variety of ways. And we would cross paths, we would share events. We just had a lot of love. We just considered ourselves like brother and sister organizations. You know, we would always show up at their shows, they would show up at our shows. It was just always love. We started getting hit up about occupying space. Now, again, I'm from the streets. I'm from the music world. So everything I know is like, make $1. All right, you made $1, cool. Use that $1 and let's make $3. Okay, you made $3, cool. Use that $3 and let's make $10. You know, versus the nonprofit, you know, situation where it's like, you know, how can we apply for grants and get this fundraising flowing in? And so I remember getting hit up by a few nonprofits at the time, and they were like, you know, hey James, like, you guys' movement is crazy. Yo, we want you to come in and activate our spaces. And I just remember being like, what the hell does activate space mean? I don't even know what that means. You know what I'm saying? Because again, all I know is like, you buy a building or you rent a building. That's it. I just know straight capitalism. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the American way. This is it. Like, when you don't do something, where's the money? Like, you know. And so I started getting hit up, you know, for these opportunities, and you know, I'm just getting hit up by white people in white neighborhoods to occupy their spaces. You know, and I'm from Memphis, fam. You know, we saw what Elvis did with Chuck Berry. We saw, like, we've seen that dynamic 16 trillion times in Memphis. And this is why in Memphis, on a whole, there is a huge distrust between the Black community and the white community, because Black people just always feel like, what y'all want with us? What y'all gonna take from us and give me $10 because you know I need it to survive? You know what I'm saying? And then I'm gonna be able to get a meal because I need one, and then your ass gonna get rich off of something you took from me. Like, that is the relationship between Black people and white people in Memphis. And so, you know, with these people coming to me and offering me stuff, I was just like, all right, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? And then I would go talk to Victoria, and she was like, yo, same thing's happening with me. Like, they reaching out, they saying, we want to activate this space with y'all. Y'all can be here and build here, blah, blah, blah. And they saying all this stuff is for free. And I'm like, hey man, I listen to Master P. Master P said, if a white man offer you a meal, I gotta be worth 10. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, yo, Vic, is what we doing worth 10? Like, is this something we're not recognizing here? You know? And so we said, look, if what we're doing has the power to empower a community, because clearly we're being used as tools to empower communities, just not ours.
Right.
Right? Where do we want to empower? Orange Mountain. Right? Let's take it back to where we came from. Like, let's if I'm gonna empower a neighborhood, let it be mine. Right? If we're gonna pull in a whole bunch of people to want to come and spend money here and come to events here and do some crazy stuff here in a space and enrich what's happening and the cultural significance of it. No, I'm gonna do that at the crib. And so Vic and I said, all right, well, we want to build an Orange Mound. At first, we just wanted to move in next to each other, Orange Mound. But then I thought to myself, hey, man, we need to make sure we're not jumpstarting gentrification in our own community. And so, make a long story really short, that's what turned into building the Orange Mound Tower and creating a relationship with the Orange Mound CDC in a way that allows us to control, or allows the community to control who and what comes into these blighted spaces, right? In a way that allows us to make sure that the attention we're bringing to this doesn't mean a Starbucks is gonna pop up across the street tomorrow, right? Instead, we can make sure spaces that are readily available are sold to people of the neighborhood and up and coming entrepreneurs and businesses that'll serve the neighborhood. And so that was the beginnings of the Orange Mound Tower, and why we started building that. We chose to build that in this significant community. And then we kind of structured it in a way that the community itself will be able to buy into it and own its growth from a co-op and restorative way. Once we did that, you know, everything changed, you know, in terms of us feeling like, all right, this is not like, we didn't want our intentions to be the road to hell. And we know that that can happen. We knew doing it this way, having the community at it from the launch and involved and in ownership, and using this as a tool to flourish the entire community, not just this being a real estate development where we're just trying to bring everybody to us. And it's not about the guy down the street or the school down the street or all of that stuff, but it's literally about generating money that bleeds out into the community and allows people generational wealth later because of it.
And that's the key word right there, generational wealth. Bringing it back home, because, you know, like he's talked about, it's like you've had white communities that have become leeches on all things Black in the community, and then told that your community ain't shit. There's nothing here. They won't do anything in order to help it make it look like it should until they get ready to take it from us.
Right. And that's them saying we're making your community look good by taking it from you.
Yeah. And you've lived in Orlando, so you've been, I'm sure, in the Paramore area, and you've seen it. And I know, like, when you probably come to visit, like, your brother or whatever, and you see the changes that has happened in Paramore and those that continue to happen. Paramore being one of the oldest, Blackest communities here in Orlando, has started to suffer through a huge horrific change of gentrification taking place. And, you know, it makes me proud to see you do what you are doing in Memphis. I always feel like whenever anybody that looks like me is doing great, that their achievement is my achievement too. And so seeing you, I'm like, I'm from Memphis too. Look at my people up there doing the damn thing. It just makes me so happy. And what you and Victoria and all the other people who are working with you all to bring the Orange Mound Tower to fruition, I really hope that you all continue to find nothing but abundance, and every obstacle, it moves out of your way in order to bring what it is that you all want to bring to fruition there in Memphis. Having a child and just thinking of this legacy that you can and will leave him, what will be your most proudest accomplishment that you cannot wait to share with him?
That's a great question. Man, I can get emotional on this one. All right. So I can feel it happening. All right, so, you know, I think for me, all right, so my biggest fear, like probably the thing that has guided so many of my decisions was, let me preface this by saying, my dad is a superhero. You know, I think my dad is the realest G of all time. I think about, you know, I think the thing that makes my dad so amazing to me is not that he got everything right. I watched a man fall and get back up.
Mm.
And he was transparent the whole time. You know, my dad, he was addicted to crack. And he went away to rehab, he came back. And literally the day he came back, he said, Tarek and James, I was addicted to drugs and now I'm not. And I know we lost our house, we lost everything, you know, but as long as we stay together and we're a team, we can get out of this. And that immediately empowered me. Like I was, the number one thing he said to me was that I received was like, hey, wait a minute, I can play a role in like, you know, getting us out of this. You know, like him saying we're a team and we just all got to play our role. In my mind, I'm thinking, great, like let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and I'm at this time I'm 8. You know, and I just remember being like, you know, I'm gonna kill my role. Like you know, let's get it. You know, and my role, the role he gave both of us, was to do good in school. Mm. You know, he was just like, you know, here's what y'all do. Y'all do good in school because, you know, I need y'all to be smart. And also, if you get into trouble in school, I can't be at work and then I can't get no money. Like I need to be able to get this money. You know what I'm saying? And so we all had our situations, and on the weekends we would pray and we would eat dinner together. And so I just looked at my dad as, I didn't look at him as somebody who messed up. I looked at my dad as like, he didn't stay down, you know? And I remember I went to college. I went to Orlando, I went to UCF. And I remember the first year I came back, like just to come back to Memphis to visit, my dad was in this new 3-story house. It was bigger than any house I definitely ever lived. You know what I'm saying? He had like 4 bedrooms and a whole basement, which was the length and width of the entire house, which could have been a whole nother living situation. You know what I'm saying? I remember walking through this, John, and I was like, bro, hold up. Hold on. Because here's the thing is, you know, I got friends and stuff now who are like, yeah, man, they coming through and visiting me for the first time, right? Because when I was deep in the hood, my friends, you know, they never came by. You know, and now we're in this house and friends are coming by and they're like, oh man, you live in that. I gotta be telling, hey dog, this ain't where I grew up. Don't get it twisted. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is not, no dog. I'm just now seeing this house too. Like, nah, man, this is not how it all happened, you know? Cause I had told stories like, oh, shit's real out here, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want people to think I was lying. Like, you know, but just watching him grow and flourish. And now he's, you know, then he was like, he bought the same car he had in high school and he just was putting it together and polishing it. And so to get to Nova, you know, my number one fear as an adult was for him to, and it's crazy, as much as I admire my dad, was to put him through what I went through. Mm. And there's a few versions, there's a few issues that made my childhood, to me, kind of hard to deal with. It wasn't just growing up poor and in poverty. It was also that, like, for some odd reason, I just really wanted my mom and dad to be together.
Mm.
You know, I used to cry about that, you know, going and visiting my mom and then coming to visit and then being living with my dad. And, man, I just always dreamt about them being together. And like you know, I wanted to be like, you know, stuff I saw on TV. I wanted to come home and my mom had a snack for me, and like my dad would come home from work and we would arm wrestle, and you know, I wanted that, you know. But you know, my dad, he was 75 hours a week. He worked 3 different jobs. So we were latchkey kids from the gate, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I was coming home and making my own meals. You know, I was coming home and, you know, figuring it out. I think I became an adult really early. So my goal was like, I wanted my son to be a kid. You know, I want my son to be like a boy, you know. And I want him to like, I want him to like, how do I say this? Sometimes he'll just be curling up on the couch with his mom, my wife. And like, I just be ready to cry. Because I've never seen it. I never experienced that. You know? And so he's whatever I did, you know, to prepare for these moments, he's like living something, has no idea. He's not like, man, I got it better than my dad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's just happy. He runs around the house. I have to tell him to walk. He's so happy all the time. You know, when I think about like what I want him to like, what I want to tell him and what I want him to get from this, it's almost like, this is gonna sound weird, but I almost never want him to know how good he got it. Like,
It's not weird.
I
you know,
have heard that before.
It's not weird.
you know, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got it.
No, it's not weird because like I think when I looked at you and I learned your story and I was like, man, what it is to like leave this legacy for this child. Because I think because I'm a boy mom, when I saw your son, I'm like, little man, you don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know. And like as a parent, all that you said hits home because those are my same fears, those are my same goals. And when you said that, and like it doesn't sound crazy because me and my husband always talk about that too. No, we want him to be the happiest, but we don't want him to think that, you know, that this is normal, like this is like this is what it is for somebody like him too. Like we want him to see everything. Like
Yeah.
whatever we have now we know is temporary, is and it's the work, hard work, and like blood and tears of my our parents. So I totally respect what you said.
Yeah. You know, that's like, it's weird, you know, it feels weird. It's not weird, but it feels weird. It feels backwards, you know, but like, for me, it's like, the thing I always wanted is I just didn't want him to start where I started, you know, which I feel like is perpetual. I feel like to some extent minorities, you know, we're the ones who have to go back and, you know, and always be concerned with the people around us, you know what I'm saying? And, by the way, I think that's just the way it should be. I honestly think that not thinking that way is something is up. Like, but you know, I just want him to, I want him to know that I want him to know the same thing I think I learned from my dad, which was that his father set a goal and it happened, you know, and that it was a long way to it, but your father wanted this goal. That was it, you know. That's what I learned from my dad. You know, I remember, like, again, my dad kept it real with me. We went to his meetings and everything. Like I remember we were in this apartment that was the worst ever, you know, and I remember my dad would drive us by this townhouse. He'd be like, yo, I'm applying for this townhouse. I know somebody who knows somebody. We might be able to get into it. We just all got to pray hard. And we would literally get home and hold hands and pray for weeks. And then we would get denied. And then my dad would be like, don't worry, we're still going to make it. We're still going to do it. Don't give up. We just got to keep going. Stay on your job. You know, your job is to do good at school, blah, blah, whatever, you know. And like, you know, I watched him take punches for years, you know. And now both of his sons, you know, I mean, we're doing all right, you know. I think we're doing okay, you know. I look at my brother, he's got a new pair of sneakers every 6 minutes. He's you know what I'm saying? Like, he's out here, you know what I'm saying? You know, he's doing all right. He's raising his kids, and you know, he's good. You know, he turned into a role model, you know, in his own right. You know, he works at, it's funny, I think about it all the time. Like, you know, neither one of us, I remember, you know, this is how we ended up in Orlando. We wanted to go to Full Sail. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to go to Full Sail, but you know, Full Sail is $6 million or whatever. We couldn't get the loans, grants, whatever, to do it.
Right.
And then I ended up getting a scholarship to UCF on some math vibes. And so I just think it's hilarious that like neither one of us ever got accepted to any higher education for music. And now Tarek is an instructor at Full Sail, and I'm a musician who has worked everywhere. So, you know, it just, you know, it's just shout out to my dad. And, you know, I hope to the same way further what is possible for my son the way my dad did, you know.
I have no words. I have no words. It is something to be able to raise a child in a home such as yours, where you have two loving parents that exist together. And it is a blessing, and to be able to raise a free child, free from the stresses of, you know, what we're going to do tomorrow, how we're going to get next day. I understand, I know that life. And so to see where you all are as a family is a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And to bring this show to a close, we always ask a question of our guests.
Right.
And that is what?
Your top five. Since you're a musician, top 5 albums or artists. I know, I'm so sorry.
We always put people on the edge because, you know, like most of the people that we've spoken to have been authors. So we always ask them their top 5 favorite books of all time. So we want the listeners to know that this might not be James's top 5. It might be for today. It might change tomorrow. It might change time he get off this Zoom call and be like, oh man, I love somebody.
I forgot about this one.
But yeah, I see albums as books. They all tell stories.
Okay, top 5 albums, which are definitely going to change right after I get off this call. I gotta start with Midnight Marauders. just because of how significant it is to me in my life. Damn, this is such a real question. I definitely got to throw in there Fantastic Volume 2 by Slum Village. Jay Dilla is my favorite ever. And so he's my biggest influence. And so that was the album that I feel like defined how much of a genius he is. Gotta go there. All right. Mad Villainy by Madlib and Doom. They just broke every rule ever. And it was and and it was, I mean, I clearly am, inspired by Doom in a variety of ways. And Madlib is just, a fucking genius. Man. Whew, okay. Voodoo by D'Angelo. I mean, that album is just, it's just flawless. It's sonically, songwriting, production. It is one ball of emotion that you just got to get through when you listen to it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the words come like after the 100th listen. Before then, it's just like a direct intravenous like injection of emotion. And if in the last one, what's the last one? Damn, this is gonna be tough. Oh, this is so hard, man. All right. So now, you know what? I'm gonna bring somebody to the table that deserves it. Cosmogramma by Flying Lotus. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Flying Lotus, he's a fucking genius. And I think he is one of the last just fucking geniuses in the game. When you talk about electronic and beat, music, he's the godfather of whatever it is now. And he's one of the few producers of now that I listen to, and I feel the same way I felt listening to Dilla early on, where it's kind of like, I don't know how he did that. I can listen to this a million times. I don't know how he did that. How he came up with that, he's just he embodies, I think, how we first started off this conversation, where it's like this magical sound, this imaginative, curious sound. Just play Cosmogramma. It literally starts off sounding like a kid in a toy room who just turned on like a machine, and all the lights start flashing and the kid starts looking around, and then he gets injected into space and he's floating around like that. That's how the album starts, And anytime I'm like, all right, bet I got to solve a problem in life, I put on that album. That album helps me imagine, So shout out Flying Lotus for entering today's top 5.
Hey.
There you have it. That's a solid list. Whew. And Flying Lotus, like his visuals that accompany his music,
great.
It stirs my soul to see his stuff and his short film. Like everything is just, like you said, it is magical. So I think you have a good list there. Even if you go back and you change it, I'm sure some of those will repeat several times throughout the rest of your life. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We greatly appreciate it. James, aka IMAKEMADBEATS, aka Nemo, forever in my heart. We hope that you will come and visit us again anytime, mask or no mask. You are more than welcome to come onto the show and talk about whatever project. I don't care if it was like, I just made this 5-second tune. I want to hear it. We will do that.
Nah, I'll say this too. I I really appreciate you two reaching out and pulling me onto your show. I deny a lot of people access to me just because I don't believe, and I just think that they just want to stand next to the Black man who's doing something and probably say, I'm cool with Black people, or, whatever. And, but like, I never, I just always felt like, oh, this is going to be fun, because like, I don't know, after just knowing you, Veronica, and then just knowing the platform and the reasons for it and going and checking out stuff or whatever, I'm just all about sincerity. I'm all about sincerity. Like, I feel like I'm a good, like, I can kind of see it when it's really there, and I promise, like, even if I disagree with you, if you're sincere and like real, I mean, like, those are the people I want to talk to the most. So I'll say this, like, thank you. It's an honor to be here on you guys' platform. And like, anytime you guys want me and around for something, hit me up. Like, I'd love to be around and be involved, and maybe even in person, at some point when I get down to the Florida zone, so yeah.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Thank you so much. I was really inspired by your story. I admire you so much as a person, and I admire you more as a father.
Thank you.
I think it's hard to raise a good human being. So keep doing what you're doing, because I know through his eyes, you are a superhero. You are doing it. You've exceeded already his expectations. But I think as a parent, it's hard for us to see that. But I think you're up there. You're like the highest out of everybody in his list. It's like daddy and mommy, pops, mom, or whatever. I'm getting choked up because I felt the love, and I'm just like, when I saw the picture of your son, I'm like, this is why he's doing all of this. This is the reason.
Yeah, absolutely is.
This is the end all and be all after God.
I'll just say this: when in 2020, when things started happening to me and I began to question how long I was going to be here, all I could think about was what I was leaving him and my wife. And specifically, so that way what I had done in my life could continue to bless their lives. That's all I could think about. Everything else, I don't care. I'm thankfully not in that scary of a situation anymore. But
right.
This could start a whole nother conversation, so I'm gonna just calm down.
but I feel you though. Like, I work in the healthcare realm, but I also am not like the most prepared when that time happens. So all the fears keep coming, and like you said, it's a whole different conversation. But yes,
But rest assured, you are on the right path, and you're paving the path for your son and for every Black child that walks through the streets of Memphis.
Thank you.
And so again, thank you. We're gonna let you go because we know you ready to do some more work in that beautiful room there.
No doubt. Thank you so much.
Until we meet again.
All right.
Take care. Okay.
You too.
All right. Peace.
bye. Good night.
Good night.